for this next year, as I was praying and asking God, okay, God, what's some of the goals, initiatives, direction that you're taking us as a team? I came with 2 words, and one of them is highlighted in one of my all-time favorite movies, The Incredibles. So watch this real quick.
So, how about you, Vi? How was school?
Nothing to report.
You've hardly touched your food.
I'm not hungry for meatloaf.
Well, it is leftover night. We have steak, pasta. What are you hungry for?
Tony Ridinger.
Shut up.
Well, you are.
I said shut up, you little insect.
Well, she is.
Do not shout at the table. Honey?
Kids, listen to your mother.
She'd eat if we were having Tony loaf.
That's it.
Stop! You're gonna be toast!
Stop coming in the house. No.
Sit down.
Ow! Hey, no force fields!
You started it.
You sit down. You sit down.
You pay for
Simon J. Palladino, longtime advocate of superhero rights, is missing. Gazer beam.
Mom, it's time to engage.
There's the word I want to hear and echo in your head is it's time to engage. All right, so that's the first thing for this next year initiative is engage. All right, and you all have been there where you're that leader that's trying to engage the kids like the mom was. How's your day? What's been going on? And your students or your kids are just not having it. And then you got that unengaged or disengaged helper or this other leader, and you're just like, come on, we need to engage, or maybe, I'm sure y'all can relate to that either in your home setting or your ministry setting. But I love the definition of engage. I looked it up. It means becoming involved. It means, it's like what Pastor Kevin said. It's sometimes it's messy being involved with people. It's not always happiness and roses and easy. Honestly, that's why I tell my kids every time they respond to salvation. This life with God is not easy. I'll be the first to tell you. Stop now if you think it's going to make it easier, but it is better. It is an adventure, but adventures always come with challenges. But what makes it worth it is because we got involved. And so there's a few ways I want to unpack this engage. All right, I know it's one word and it can be very broad. So let me unpack what I mean and what I'm sensing for initiative for this 2020 of engage. One is engage God. First thing you'll always hear come from my mouth is go after God. I need you. I need you to protect that time that you have with the Lord. I need you to make that priority. Because from that, everything else flows. Your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your kids, your relationship with your coworkers, your relationship with God, obviously. From that, engaging God, everything else flows. So engage God. Make that a priority. Because honestly, if you're dry, or not even dry, because there's times where we're engaging God and we just sense that we're dry. That's not a problem. And we're still engaging God. We're still seeking and pursuing Him. But the moment that we stop engaging God, we're at risk of burnout. And you're no good to anyone at that point. I'd rather have you stop, engage God again, than keep going and burn yourself out. All right, so stay engaged with God through this next year. Another one is engage kids. All right, this is simple. You all know this. This is Kids Leaders 101, that you go after kids. But it's just a helpful reminder that this year, once again, don't just come and do one job. Even if your job is guest services, and you're like, I'm only with kids like 2 seconds or 2 minutes. Go engage them. Go talk to them. With how many, I think they're saying now, like it takes a voice of about 7 people poured into a life of a kid to override all the other influences they're going to have and all the other voices they're going to have. And so it's going to take every one of us to engage a kid and to speak life into them. Versus like what Kathy was saying, all the voices they're telling themselves. With Monty, all the voices that other organizations and other people, and maybe even people closest to them are telling them. And so engage kids. I also love, Pastor Joe was telling us this story at our last staff chapel. And it was directly applicable to you. He was talking about how when he was a kid, and he looked at the pastors on the stage with him. There was Pastor Joe, there was Pastor Zach from Davidson, there was Frank Canador, our headmaster of the school, and all those guys were pretty rowdy. they were that donkey, they were that troublesome kid that stressed some people out, their teachers and their leaders. But Joe was telling a story, he was painting a picture, but look at the work, and for him it was one person, it was his Royal Ranger leader that spoke into him and said, one day you're going to be a preacher. And he shared the story of how even that ranger leader one time at checkout was talking to Joe as a kid, and his mom, Joe's mom, was there, and he said, hey, do you know this guy's gonna be a preacher one day? And his mom said, what? My son? No. You know, like even his mom like had a trouble seeing this vision, but you as leaders, thankfully, you know, we get to see some things that the parents who don't get to see, because they're with them every day, every minute. You know, they get lost in details and frustrations and joys and highs and lows. But us as leaders, it takes us to engage kids, to speak life into them. Because who knows? Who knows? And even if it's not being, you know, I don't want to have this stereotype of, okay, a preacher is better than a garbage man. A preacher is better than a stay-at-home dad or a stay-at-home mom. Anything. Speak life into them. Say, you know what? You're going to make an amazing mom one day, and you're going to stick with your family and be faithful to them. You're going to make an amazing garbage man, that you have a heart for the community, and that you're going to pour in, and you're going to take it personal. You know, your job and your work. And so it don't matter what it is, but let's speak life into these kids, no matter what it is, because they can change their world wherever they're at. Another thing is engaging families. Unpacking what it means to engage. I want us to engage families. Already you've probably seen a couple of small things with our improved nursery progress reports, so that families can know what their kid learned and also have that correspondence. That's just one simple way. In Kidz Ministries on Sundays with Kids Junior and Kids World, we've introduced these family connection sheets, which is, once again, just here's what we learned today, here's a couple things to ask, and here's an activity to do. All right, because you all have been parents, or are parents, or a lot of you, now in that parenting season too. Honestly, our parents, I don't think wake up and say, I'm gonna try to be a terrible parent today. You know what I mean? Hope not. But honestly, I think most of our parents have really good intentions. And it comes down to sometimes they don't know, or they need a little like cue. They need a little help, like just get my foot in the door, just get me started, and then I know where to take it from there. Or, you know, and so one of the things that we want to combat as a Kidz Ministry is this culture of, okay, I'm going to bring my kids to athletics, and they're going to teach them all about athletics. I'm going to bring my kid to school, they're going to take care of the public, or this education paradigm. I'm going to bring my kids to church, and they're going to take care of the spiritual church, you know, paradigm. And then what's left for the parents? You know, just giving them food and clothing. Like, there's more to a parent. They get to influence and touch every one of those paradigms of a student's life. That a parent should be involved in education of their kid. The parent should be involved in the development physically, mentally, and also spiritually. And so we want to combat this culture of, hey, I brought my kid to you, why aren't they fixed? You know? Well, here, let us help you. How can we partner with you? You know, because honestly, you as leaders, you only have 40 hours a year with the kid. A parent has triple that. So who do you think is going to be a more important voice in their life? Who do you think is going to have more influence and impact in their life? And so we want to partner with our parents to really help engage our families. So even if you're doing small group activities, start thinking, how can I help my families involved with this? In nursery, it's a little bit weirder. You know, it's different because they're really young. But even in nursery, Miss Caroline had an amazing idea. Nursery has an amazing opportunity to connect other families in a pretty crazy season. You know, a lot of them adapting, a lot of them just learning. And so even in nursery, once about 3 or 4 months, we're giving them and we're encouraging them, hey, here's another small group for you. Here's a CFA tribe, a CFA group of other parents in the same season as you, to connect, to encourage you, to build that connection. Like, we can't host all those things, but thankfully we have ways to partner with families, and that's just one example, even in small groups. But another way to engage families, simply just get to know the parents at checkout. Just know that, yes, you're there to engage kids, but any moment you have with that parent, just go engage them. Become involved in their life. Hey, how you doing? No, what's really going on? You know, or however you can in that window of time you have. But just go after parents and guardians, even at checkout. Another simple way is giving parents resources to help them in on their own initiative of spiritually developing their child. If it's an article, a book, if it's a video series, or whatever, in your brainstorming and your dreaming of ministry with your pastor director and with your other leaders, just ask yourself how or what is something we can give our parents to help this conversation continue. You know, so it doesn't just stay on Sunday morning or Wednesday night or whatever time that you have with them. So engage families. And the last one for Unpack and Engage is engage our community. It's going to keep coming this year. We're going to be going out. All right, we are changing, or trying to change the idea, because our church was crafted, and church across America has been really crafted to reach exactly who it's been crafted to reach, which are other church goers. You know what I mean? And we really want, obviously, to we have a mandate, mission, a call from our Lord, and so we're going to be going out. So one of the things that we're going to be focused on again this year is engage our community. So many things like our CCY opening day we had this last spring. We had even our CFA Academy, which is a huge pond of people in our community. Only 30% of the elementary kids actually go to one of our services or discipleship groups. That's 70% across the street that are involved somewhere else. You know, some of them are involved in other churches, but that number is becoming a lot fewer as far as people involved. And so there's a huge pond of opportunity to engage across the street. With the Academy, we did things like with what Casey was helping us with our muffins with moms and donuts with dads, like little ways that we could just go out and show face. Schools Out Bash. A lot of you helped Pastor Joey with our Schools Out Bash. This was the first year, you know, they were trying to, we were trying to, so we were like, hey, let's have a presence there. This fall, we're gonna have a presence at the Hispanic Heritage event down off Barber Scotia. And we're gonna be there and engaging our community. Even talks already this Christmas about having a Christmas village put on for our community and really engaging and going out and letting them know that we're here. Like, however, if you're looking for a church, we're here. If you're looking for ministry, if you're looking for help, we're here. And so let's engage our community. And so that's one of the words was engage. And then as I started to kind of ask God more, okay, cool. Is there anything else? Is there anything else? One of the things that you probably noticed is that CFA as a church is kind of growing into a family of churches, is what we kind of call it, because we don't know what it looks like, honestly. We're figuring it out as we go along. But we recognize that we have a lot of great resources, and there's actually a big need. There's a lot of the churches that are interested in partnering with other churches to do all those things, to engage their families, to engage their community, to whoever. And so we know as a staff that there's going to be more families, more church families coming in, however that looks. You know, each one might be different, but I want to be ready and make sure we're ready as teams to help them. You know, what's amazing is I am a firm believer in learning from other people that have gone before me. So if there's any way I can avoid a mistake or an accident or anything, but just by asking people that's gone before me, I'll do it. I feel like you're foolish if you don't. And so these churches coming in to join our church family and other whatever network or family of churches have an amazing opportunity where they can, maybe they're just starting up a Kidz Ministry. They don't have to make the same mistakes that we made 10 years ago or we made last year. Like, we were able to tell them, hey, this is what we've learned. Take it and run with it if you want. Adapt it to your setting. But in order to do that, this word came to mind, is reproducible. So this is our second initiative for next year, is think reproducible. All right, we got engage, and now we have think reproducible. And I love, this is kind of a way to help craft it. In all of your settings, in all of your responsibilities at Kidz Ministry, ask this: how could another church use this? Whatever you're doing, if it's an event, you know, like our ACONs. When we brainstormed our ACON, we were brainstorming already, okay, if another church wanted to do this from wherever, are we ready to give them the stuff they need, the digital files? Are we ready to give them the instruction book, to give them a supply list? Like, are we ready to give them a picture of what it looks like? And so think through, how could another church use this? Here's some simple ways, unpack it. Everything from your training plans. Your pastors and directors all have come up with training plans that Pastor Kevin and I pushed through about 4 or 5 years ago. But every year, those things need to be updated or changed. So if you're involved with the training process with your pastor director, think through, okay, is this training plan applicable? You know, obviously we can't customize it to every setting. Like, it's kind of customized to Concord. But if we have it at least in writing, that's the first step. You know what I mean? So have your training plans in writing so that when someone says, Cindy, what was your nursery training like? You know, she has an easy fallback. Oh, let me get up with Caroline. She has a training plan that I've actually seen, that I've been walked through, and we can send it to you and see everything that we do when it comes to nursery training. Or when they say, well, hi, what do you do when it comes time to train your urban youth or your outreach teams? Oh, wait, yeah, here it is. Here's an outline, you know, walks you step by step. Change it to what you need, but here's, you know, so think through reproducible, even in your training plans. Another thing is in our curriculum, even as we write curriculum. Now, some of you might not write curriculum, but some of you are using other curriculum. Even think through that, like, have your pastor director, and I've walked all of our pastors and directors through this before you guys, so this isn't new to them, but I've encouraged them, like, save your curriculum. So that, like, you have a clump of curriculum. So when someone says, hey, we're starting a small group in Davidson, like, we're doing our Wednesday night service, do you have a source that we could use, you know, a resource? Do you have a curriculum that we can use. So you save those things even if your pastor director aren't or haven't thought about that. Encourage them to do that, which I've encouraged them to do as well. And then also pathways, or kind of like our systems. This is once again more applicable for Pastor Joe and I, and our directors and pastors. But just so you know, we're also thinking through, okay, we have an amazing VIP process. Our VIPs, when they come, we've had over 327 just last year, to give you an idea. You know how many of those have came back 3 times? Over 220. That percentage is nowhere else in America. They say if you get 10% back from your guest, you're doing good. All right, we're getting like 70%. And so it's amazing, but it's all because we really, really fine-tuned our process, our system for the VIP. So, you know, and so we as a team have been thinking through, okay, what do we do well, and how can we put it in steps so that another church, if they want it, like when they ask, Pastor Joey, what's our VIP process? You can, here you go. Here it is. Here's our 1, 2, 3 step. Here's what you do with those steps. You know, so think through that if you're already in a ministry where you're creating systems or pathways to walk people from point A to point B. Write everything down. Okay, if you don't take anything else away from the reproducible, you just write things down. All right, if you need to, and pass it along to your pastor or director. It'll help us be reproducible. Another way to be reproducible is our service experiences. You know, a lot of churches want to know how we do what we do. All right, like they want to know how we do this obstacle course. Now, this might not be as reproducible unless they have scaffolding in a big room, but still, we can at least. You know, Pastor Joy's working on getting diagrams for all of them, getting pictures for all of them. So if they wanted to, they have a supply list. They have pictures of how it should look assembled. They have everything they need if they wanted to do it and had the space to do it. You know, so think through your service experience and how that can be reproducible in case another church wanted to duplicate or replicate what we do. But here's the biggest thing I want to land on today. As you think reproducible, this is most applicable to you in the sense that I want you to reproduce yourself. Pull in that new leader that you're working on training. Pull in that new high school leader that you're working to put them under your wing. Let them see what you see. You know, you all have been doing this for quite a few years, you know, and let them see what you see as far as, hey, you see that kid over there? What I see is a kid that needs to be engaged. They're by themselves, they're bored, they're causing trouble. You know, rather than thinking of that kid as a troublemaker, it tells me, I need to go engage that kid. You know, start taking other leaders under your wing. But also, as we talked about a little bit earlier with Engaging Kids, start speaking life into the students and kids that you have, all right? But the biggest way you can be reproducible is reproduce yourself. And there's an example of this from the Bible in the story of Elijah. So I love, it actually worked out so cool. It's amazing how it just, you can see Elijah. And I want to pray at this time as we close. I'll walk you through it, but I'm going to pray over each one of you that you're Elijahs, and that you're raising up Elishas in other leaders, in other students, in other parents even. But here's an example. In 1 Corinthians 17, Elijah engaged the family by giving help through a dry season and fighting for their children to be healed. And we see him engaging families there. And let me say this. He engaged one family. You'll hear this a little bit later when we in our next breakout. But just don't get overwhelmed with trying to do for everyone what you wish you could do. Just do for one. Just do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. I'm sure Elijah wished he could have prayed and supplied oil and bread to every family in Israel going through that famine. But he did it for one. And when that child died, he fought for that child like it was his own. You know what I mean? He engaged families. So don't be overwhelmed. Pastor Ryan, Pastor Joe, we are not telling you, go engage 10,000 families. I'm telling you, go engage one. All right? And do what you can for one that you wish you could do for everyone. And then we see Elijah again in the next chapter. He's engaging his community. He's showing them that there is an alive and active God. All right? He's engaging his community to say, hey, look, you're going one way, but here's a God that's alive and active, and he changed the direction of where they were going because he engaged his community. And then in the next chapter, Elijah engaged God. All right, you know the story when he's on Mount Carmel. God had called him away. He retreated away. And he waited for God through all of these natural disasters, fire, earthquake, storm, all this stuff. And then he engaged God. He was patient enough to engage God and get a fresh word and vision or mission. And it directly affected, and this is what I love, That's when we engage God. Almost always, God's asking us to grow and to grow others, to pour into others. Because right after you engage God, and God spoke to him and reassured him, he also said, but I need you to get off your knees. I need you to get off your face. And there's someone to pass it on to. And that's what we see. Elijah then reproduced himself in finding Elisha. God gave him his mission. He said, look, thanks for engaging me, but I need you to also go reproduce yourself. All right? Go make another prophet so that you don't complain and say you're the only one. I got more for you. I mean, there's someone, and here's his name. And so Elijah reproduced himself and raised up a successor to do even more than himself. And that's what I need you to end with today. Is realize I need you to be secure enough that you can say to another leader, I want you to do better than me. I want you to get more notice than me. I want you to do even more miracles than me. I want you to do double what I've done. You know what I mean? Even in your own kids. A lot of you have kids. Speak this to them. Jesus was secure enough in his ministry and his call that he said that over his disciples. He said, you're going to do even greater things than me. You know? And Jesus is like the object lesson for all things. You know? But he calls us and you and I, he's secure enough. So look, I want you to do greater things. And so I want to pray over you, just honestly, an Elijah anointing, that you do these things, that we engage our families, that we engage our community, that we're engaging God, but then we're also pouring ourselves into someone else and giving them what God has given.